Hi, this tutorial is going to talk about the Layers panel. The Layers panel is found over here on the right side. You can turn it on and off or toggle it on and off by using this Layers icon down here at the bottom. If you click on it, it'll go away. If it's not, it'll go away. If it's not there, you can click on it again, it'll come back. You can also find it up here under Window, Layers. That'll toggle it on and off. The Layers panel is a good way to keep your artwork organized. If everything was done on one layer, there would be no way to select and edit any of the individual elements that you have on your artwork. So the layers is really important, and you'll use it all the time. You can see if I turn this eyeball, if I click on this eyeball, that'll turn the visibility off on that layer. The layer's still there, you just can't see it over here on your artboard. So all this gray and white checkerboard area, that's the transparent area. That lets the layer underneath it, for example, right now we're looking at the blue starburst is the layer on the bottom, because we've turned this visibility off, and it allows the visibility of, it allows this background to show through. Same thing with the type layers. If we turn this off, it shows all this area is transparent now, and it allows the blue starburst and the background to show through. This is a graphic that I made years ago. It kind of shows how the layers work. Each layer is on its own little individual sheet of clear acetate or clear glass, and if you paint it on that glass where the paint isn't, you would be able to see what's underneath. And that's kind of how the layers work. So where this one is, all this area out here is clear, and you'd be able to see the sheets of glass that are underneath it show through. Layers are really essential. You can move layers around. Let's move this white layer down underneath the black layer. If you click on the layer and hold the mouse button down, and just drag it, and as you see that line between the starburst and the black number one show up, let it go. And now the white number one is behind the black number one. You can drag it underneath the starburst, and now it looks like it's disappeared, but it's still there. If you turn the visibility of the starburst off, it's still there. The only reason you can't see it is because the starburst is on top. This is your layer stack. Your starburst is on top of the one, and because of the transparency, it's covering up the white number one. To drag it back to the top, just click on it, hold, drag up. When you see that line get thick up there, let it go, and now it's there on the top again. You can make a new layer up here. If you put your mouse over these icons up here, a little flyout will come out that'll show you exactly what it does. This one creates a new layer. You can also create a new layer by just clicking on a layer and dragging it up to that icon, and let it go, and now you have two of them. To delete a layer, just click on the layer you want to delete and just click on this trash can up here. It'll ask you if you want to delete it, click yes, and it's gone. You can also make a new layer by just clicking on this icon. If you select a layer that you want the new layer to be above, and just click on this icon, and the new layer will come in right there. To rename the layer, just click on that layer name right there. Come on, and you can rename it. We'll just put a new layer, since we don't really have anything on there now. It's a good idea to name your layers, otherwise you'll just have a lot of layers. Just say layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and you you won't really know what it is. See how I've already named these layers. So now you just click anywhere away from that and it'll name that layer. Let's create something on that layer. Let's select our Marquee Tool. We'll just draw a bar right here. Okay, let's paint that bar. Now to change the color, just click on this foreground color and you'll open up this color picker. Let's pick a nice bright green. Say OK. Now we want to fill that, so let's go up here, make sure we're on this layer, go up under Edit, Fill Selection. And this will give you the option to fill it with the foreground color, the green, the background color, which is white, any other color, content aware. We'll get into some of these in other tutorials, black or white, gray. We just want the foreground color because we want it to be green. So click OK, and it fills it with green. Okay, let's go over some of these other icons up here. This is the create a new group icon. Sometimes if you have many layers, it can get pretty confusing. So what we could do is create a layer group. For example, if we wanted this starburst and the green to be in one group, just hold down your shift, click on both of these layers, click on that create a group. There's group 1, and we can name that if you want. Same way we named the other one, starburst and bar. And now if we get the move tool, this is the move tool over here, you can see that we're moving everything as a group. Let's undo that. Let's to get them out of a group, just click on the layers. You can do it one at a time or you can do both of them, and just slide them out of the group. Now the group's down here, it's empty. Just click on that and delete it. This icon is the adjustment layer. We'll talk about adjustment layers in another tutorial too, because they can be in a tutorial all on their own. Let's just click on this new layer and we'll hit on the adjustment layer, create a new adjustment layer, and here you can pick which one you want. We'll just go to hue saturation for fun because this is just going to be a basic. We'll do a tutorial on adjustment layers later, but you can see that you get these sliders. This is the hue, and you can change the hue. As you change the hue, you'll see that it's changing. And it's only changing that bar because each adjustment layer has a layer mask that automatically comes on with it. And because we had that bar selected, that little layer mask came on by itself, on automatically. Let's just delete that layer mask. Just drag it up to the trash can. It'll say, do you want to delete the layer mask? Yes, delete it. Now you can see how this adjustment layer is affecting everything below it. See how it changes the color of everything, the bar, the starburst, and the background. If we drag it just under the starburst, or under the new layer, sorry, now it'll just affect the starburst and the background. It's not going to affect that bar. If we slide it down just above the background, now it will only affect the background. The starburst remains blue and the bar remains green. If you want to, let's move it back up here. If you want to just affect this bar and not anything else below it without using that layer mask that we did, and layer masks are a tutorial in their own also. We'll get into those more in depth. If you hold down, if you drag it above the layer that you want to affect, hold down the Option on a Mac or the Alt on a PC. You'll see when you drag right in between those two layers, you get the little square with the arrow pointing down. Just click on that, and that clips it to this. It'll only affect the pixels on this layer. Now you can see how we will drag it, and it's only affecting that bar, the same way as the layer mask did. Lots of different ways you can do things in Photoshop. And that's another way you can do it. You can do it that way, or you can do it with the layer mask. Let's go ahead and delete that. Just it's selected, hit the garbage can. Okay, delete the layer, yes. This is the layer mask, and we already kind of looked at that a little bit. We can, let's make a layer mask on this new layer. Just have that layer selected, click on the mask, and this is the mask. You can see that the mask is selected because it's got this blue border going around it. If you select, come on, there. Now the blue border is around the layer itself. This is the layer itself. Select the mask. Make sure the blue border is around the mask. Now, the way masks work, and this is very basic, because like I said, we'll get into it later in other tutorials. If you want to paint on that, have this your colors black and white. Now white is transparent, shows everything that's on this layer. Whatever I paint on black will hide whatever is on this layer, and only this layer, nothing underneath. So if I change these, to change them you can hit this curved arrow right here. That switches your black and your foreground and background color. So now we have black, the paintbrush. If we paint on this, you can see that it's hiding what's on this layer. But if you look on that, the layer is still, the color is still there on the layer. It's just covered over with this black and it's hiding it. So layer masks are really good. You can toggle that on and off. If you hold down the shift and click on that, it'll turn that layer mask off. So you can see it. It's still there, it's just covered up. Okay, that's enough of that, because that is a tutorial in its own, and we'll cover that more in depth later. So let's drag that up and say yes. Don't apply it, just delete it. Okay, this is the layer lock. This locks all the pixels on a layer. For example, if we lock this new layer with the bar, now I can't do anything. I've got the paintbrush selected, but see, I can't do anything with that. I can't paint it, can't do anything. That's because that whole layer is now locked. If I go to the Move tool, I'll see it wants to grab some other layer. Yep, see it moved to the other layers because that layer is locked. If I turn off the visibility of everything so it can't grab one of the other layers, that didn't work, did it? Oh, there we go. Had to think for a little while, I guess. Okay, now you can see that I cannot move that layer because it's locked. Let's turn the visibility back on. To unlock it, just click on that lock and it unlocks it, and now I can paint on that layer and do whatever I want on that layer. This is the lock transparent pixels. So if we click on that, see that icon over there? It's got the lock, but it only shows the checkerboard like you see on the transparent area of each layer. So now if I paint, let's pick a different color. Let's pick a red color. Now if I get the paintbrush and I paint, it only affects the layers that are already colored on that layer. It only colors them, and it doesn't color any of the transparent areas because the transparent areas are locked. Let's undo that. Command Z or Control Z will undo whatever you want. Or you've got these down here. Like I said, there's different ways, several different ways to do anything. You've got those down there. In Edit, you've got the undo and redo as well. And you can see that there's the keyboard shortcuts. Command Z or Control Z on a PC. Command Y will redo, or Control Y on a PC. Alright, this is a little fly down menu that has a lot of different things. Things we've already talked about, like rename a layer and a group, create a group, delete layer, new layer, duplicate layer. We've already done that. All of that stuff in this tutorial without going to here. One good thing here is if you get into some trouble or you have any questions, you can go to this layers help and it will automatically launch the Adobe website with some help that can help you to with some questions. It goes over all the basics here, and it's in written form, so it might be a good idea if you have a split screen, or if you have a tablet, you could go here and look up some things. There's more questions here that are answered by Adobe, and sometimes they really help, sometimes they don't really tell you what you're looking for, but it's a good resource to go to if you need to help. Okay, also in here is these right here, this little pull down menu. Why did that pop up? This little pull down menu. These are your layer blending modes. These are really good to know. They get into a lot of detail, and so these are also going to be tutorial or maybe several tutorials on their own. But you can see this affects the layer that you're on and how it interacts with the other layers. So if you click on these, some things don't do anything depending on what's on the layer. Sometimes they have some drastic effects. See what it's doing to this bar as I select these different options. Some don't really change, some change drastically. We won't go through them all, and I'm not going to explain it all now because, like I say, that's going to be a tutorial in its own. But you can see how it can drastically change things. If you come down even here, down here to some of the bottom ones, look at the luminosity, what it does. So, and let's just turn that back to normal. It's usually on normal by default. This here is the opacity of your layer. You can change the opacity. Watch this green bar as I change the opacity. If I click on opacity, I can just slide it back and forth. There it's 100% opacity, so everything underneath it is completely hidden. And there it starts showing through as I lower that opacity. You can also click on here on this arrow and get this slider. Excuse me. Get this slider Or you can just type something in here if you want. You type 50%. And there it is, 50%. So that's different ways to affect the transparency of each layer. So that's the basics of the layer panel. We use them all the time. Layers panel is very important, very useful, and I just encourage you to play with it a little bit, see what you can do. Don't forget to keep a good order. Use your groups if you need to keep things organized, and just continue to practice and continue to learn. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye.